Ledet. I am the host on That Seals the Deal. And our topic today is about who dropped you. I'm glad that you tuned in today because so many times that we go through things in life, we don't understand what's going on. But how many of us know that some things have to happen? Because the Bible tells me to suffer with him means to reign with him. And we cannot predict what can happen and what cannot happen at certain times and certain points in our life. But we already know that it's already orchestrated by God from the beginning. A lot of things that go on, the first thing that we holler is that the enemy is crazy or the devil is stupid. And the truth of the matter is that is a test that we've been going through. How many of us know that sometimes life get hard, sometimes life deal your hand, and sometimes that you don't understand it? So today we will be coming from the book of 2 Samuel and the 9th chapter, and we're going to be talking about Mephibosheth. How many of us know that Mephibosheth was the son of Jonathan, who was Saul's son? And so we have to understand that it all comes from the bloodline. And the first thing that David did, because he was so close to Jonathan and because in life Jonathan had looked out for his well-being, the first thing that David wanted to know was, do Jonathan still have anybody in his bloodline? And the first thing that the woman was described was Mephibosheth. He said, Jonathan have a son, but he is lame. So many times that the situations that we go through in our life, we are predicated by what we've been through or what we had or what we've been through, because she never even said his name was Mephibosheth. She said that he was lame. Isn't that something that people will always go or always remember you on something that once was or something that's going on now, but they don't know where you're about to go? And so as David went on and as David went to look for Mephibosheth, he was in a place called Lodabar. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I have been in some low places. And do you not know that's the place that God will find you? I don't know about y'all, but sometimes that you will connect God faster in the valley than you do at the mountaintop. And so sometimes God will let us go through certain circumstances that have us in a place called Lodabar. That sometimes that could be the lowest place of your life. You ever been through a situation to where you didn't feel like praying, you didn't feel like going to church, you didn't feel like hearing no kind of spiritual music, you didn't feel like talking to the pastor or anything, because the situation had you maintained to where you needed to stay in a place of Lodabar. And that's a dangerous place to be, because sometimes it gets you in a place of isolation. And what I notice is when the enemy want to get you in a place of isolation, he'll put you in a place to where you don't want to receive spiritual phone calls. You don't want to hear no kind of encouragement, and let alone you don't even want to encourage yourself. And you can imagine how Mephibosheth felt, because he felt like that he came from a lineage of the kings and he wasn't able to do his part, or he felt like that he was abandoned, or he felt like that life must have dealt him some kind of bad deal, and he felt like that he wasn't coming out of this place no time soon. But how many of us know that God already had a plan? I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I've been in places in life that when my mom wasn't there, when my dad wasn't there, and I felt like I was in a place by myself, and I felt like that life had dealt me this hand, but I didn't know about this man named Jesus. But when I came into contact with Jesus, he made it all right. When I came into contact with Jesus, I realized that his name, wait inside the world that no other name could ever wait. And so this is the hour that we have to know who we are and whose we are. And so when Mephibosheth came up to David, and when he fell on his face, the first thing David told him was, don't do that, raise up. Sometimes we get in a place to where we feel like we low, or we feel like that everybody else is above us, and we feel like we are beneath. But can I tell you, you are the head and not the tail. You are above and not beneath. And Mephibosheth felt like the king is coming and look for me. Can I tell you, God is about to put your name in places that you have never thought in your life that you would be able to obtain, yet let alone maintain. So this is the hour that God is pushing us into the place that we call there. This is the place that God had placed Mephibosheth at, that King David would come in a place, in a low place, in Lodabar. How many of us know that God will come meet us right where we at? I don't know what life has dealt you. Maybe a loved one passed. Maybe you went through finances. Maybe you felt yourself that you lost everything, that you lost your marriage, you lost your house, or some of us even lost children, or some of us maybe even lost yourself. But can I tell you that God already had a plan for your life? God had to allow these things to come about so you could find out who you really were. If David would have never found Mephibosheth in that place, what if? Can we go back a little bit? Can we press rewind on this thing? Because number one, the situation that Mephibosheth was in, he did not cause it on himself. Because if you know anything about the background of the story, was that he was with a handmaiden, that he was with a nanny, in other words. And when war had broke out, she picked him up and she had started to run with him. But as she ran, she dropped him. I need to tell somebody might have been running with you and drop you. Rather, it was a spiritual mother. Sometimes it could be a spiritual father, or sometimes it could be a natural mother, a natural father, or somebody that you really looked up to, but along the way they dropped you. Did you ever realize maybe they could not carry what you weighed? That people don't understand that, guess what I have on my life, you can't even begin to understand how much that it really weighed. And because of what weighed on his life, that the nanny didn't realize that, guess what, she was running trying to save his life, not knowing that she dropped him. She didn't do it on purpose. It just happened. Can I tell you, some things happen in life that it wasn't meant to happen on purpose, but it had to happen in order for God to get you in a place. Sometimes we look at things and we're not understanding why it happened, how it happened, why me, God? But God asking you, why not you? You ever thought about maybe if Mephibosheth was not handicapped, maybe if he would have never been dealt this hand, would he have been in a position to require everything that was left for him? Can I tell somebody, don't count your shortcomings as a disaster, as a downset, or as a setback. Because can I tell you, your comeback gonna be greater than you could ever imagine. You ever thought about that Mephibosheth probably was just in a state in that week and probably just going before God? I'm pretty sure he knew who God was. He knew about the man that they called Jesus. And he just probably got in a place and just started praying that day and said, God, know what? God, I know that I haven't been the best. God, I know what blood lineage I came from. But God, can I ask you, can you come to me right where I'm at? Can I tell you, when you pray and you ask God some questions, that when God starts answering you, he'll answer you in a place that you never thought that you'll be in. And undoubtedly he prayed. And guess what? When his prayer got to heaven, it met David wherever he was, because God is the orchestrator of our life and he have the king heart in his hand. And that's something how David woke up that morning and started thinking about, is there anybody else from Jonathan bloodline that's still alive? You have to understand that David woke up with this on his heart. Do you not know that God reached David in a dream? You can imagine that David probably dreamed about this, that he got up and was all over the place and asking people, well, I need to bless somebody in the bloodline. Can I tell you the reason why you where you at today? Because it was somebody in your bloodline that prayed for you. Maybe it was your grandmother, maybe it was your mother, maybe it was your grandfather, maybe it was your daddy, but it all came from the bloodline. Can I tell you, God has sent you to be in this place at this particular time in order for you to receive the blessing that's about to come through your bloodline. I don't know about y'all, but I can only speak about myself. I didn't know why I had to go through 3 brain surgeries. I didn't know why I had to die in my 2nd brain surgery. I didn't know why I had to feel like at times that I was left dead on side the road, not knowing that, guess what, they had already pronounced me dead. But it's about something in the spirit that God came back and resuscitated me. You have to understand that when everybody left you for dead, when nobody didn't even know who you are, when people only remembered you on how you used to be, or you was no good something, or you was a prostitute, or you was a pimp, or you was a drug dealer, or whatever it was that they had labeled you as. But isn't that something how when God come and clean you up, they don't have no other choice but to respect who you are and call you by your rightful name? Isn't that something that David didn't even look at his handicap? And that's the part that I love, because when God looking at us, God not looking at our downfall. God not looking at the stronghold that God already looking at the plan, at the life that he have already placed before us. Thank God, God is not like man, because God is not looking at me at my mistakes. God not looking at me at the woulda, coulda, shoulda. God already know what he already predestined me to be. But there's something how how Mephibosheth fell on his face. And the first thing that he told David, how can you come to a dead dog like me? And the thing that I love about David didn't even took time to entertain it. Can I tell you, this is your season. Don't entertain the low place in your life. Don't entertain about what you woulda, coulda, shoulda been. This is the hour to know who you are, to stand for what you believe in, and know that God got your back. David didn't even entertain him. David started calling the servants. He started saying, know what? Where he once was, he will no longer be there before. Can I speak prophetically in your life? Where you used to be, you will no longer be there no more. God is calling you from the backside of the desert to bring you to the front side of the place that God is calling you. You once was the tail, but now God is calling you forward to be the head. Can I tell you, God is about to put your feet in places that you never thought that you would be able to take over. God is about to allow your name to be put in the wind. Can I tell you that Mephibosheth got up that morning, felt like that he was a nobody, felt like that he was lesser than, but baby, before the day was out, can I tell you, God had pulled him from the backside and placed him inside the raw place. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like I'm sitting on the right hand of the Father. And can I tell you, wherever I need favor, favor shall meet me there. Wherever I need God to move, God shall move. Can I speak in somebody's life that I prophesy to your life right now, that the tears that you cried only prepared you for your harvest? Can I tell you, the tears that you cried only watered the seeds that you have sown in life, and now God said, get ready for your harvest? Can I tell you, don't even worry about entertaining the enemy in this season, because God said that you shall be greater than you could ever imagine. It is not for you to get the glory, it's for God to get the glory. The thing that I love about David didn't take time to ask nobody what they thought about what. He didn't ask nobody if they think that he should have went meet Mephibosheth. He didn't ask nobody no advice. He did what God had already required in his heart to do. Can I tell you, God got the king heart in his hands for you this season. Can I even speak to myself? God got somebody heart in his hand that's concerning my destiny. And can I tell you, God is about to turn it toward the way that I needed to be turned in order for me to have favor when I needed favor. The thing that I loved about David had to tell Mephibosheth and his workers, he said, come on, I need y'all to do what I have commanded y'all to do, and he shall sit at the king table, and he forever shall be seated. Can I tell you, if you're in the right place at the right time, you're going to receive what God has for you. The servants didn't even realize they was getting blessed because who they was connected to. Can I speak right now? Whoever is connected to me shall be blessed. Whoever is connected to you shall be blessed. Can I tell y'all, it's a season that God is roaring up some things, that a tsunami is about to come overtake you in a place that you never thought that would come overtake you. You can imagine how Mephibosheth got up feeling that morning, because he was already in a place where he needed people to help him probably get dressed, probably help him walk, probably help him sit at the table. But he was coming to a place in his life that God was about to set him up for a lifetime. I don't know about y'all, but where God is about to take me in this season, God is about to set me up for a lifetime. Do you not know that God had to prune some stuff first? God had to let him go in a low place first. God had to keep him in hiding first. Can I tell you, anybody could have found out what he was and would kill him, wouldn't assassinate him. But can I tell you, God had him hidden for a season. I need somebody to say amen right there, because God had you hidden for a season. Can I speak to myself? God had me hidden for a season, but now it's time that somebody is looking for me, that got the blessing in their hands for me. Can I tell you, God is sending somebody on their way that has asked about me, that has required of me. And this is my season that God is coming and send me to the table. Can I tell you, it's not for what nobody else made. This is a table that was made personally for me. Can I tell you, they're going to have some people invited. God say, this is your dinner. This is the supper time. This is the red carpet event, whatever it is that you find yourself in. Can I tell you, this is the time that the people going to show up. Can I tell you, you're going to have the supporting actors. Can I tell you, you're going to even have the critics. Can I tell you, you're going to even have the major actors. Can I tell you, the cast and crew knew that God already had predestined for your life for 2022, guess what? There is already in the making. Can I tell you, and earlier today that I was speaking to my sheep, and God had told me that they don't understand. What about the preview that God has set above you? Can I tell you, if you could reach for it, if you could see it, is already required to you. If God gave it to you in your dream, you keep dreaming until you see the manifestation of it. Can I tell you, you write down your affirmations, you speak over yourself, you speak over your life, you tell yourself, say, you are the head and not the tail. You are greater than you could ever imagine. I shall live in a house that the desires of my heart. I shall drive what I want to drive. Can I be sorry? I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, because guess what? You wasn't there when he found me. You wasn't there when he placed his arms around me. You wasn't there when people left me for dead. Can I feel like a Mephibosheth moment when people left me for dead, when people didn't think that I was going to make it, when they thought that I was just a child playing with God, when they didn't think that I was called to do what God have called me to do, when they thought that I was a reject, when they thought that I was just making up this stuff. But isn't that something that they say don't play with God? But undoubtedly I played with him long enough that guess what? He stayed where I was. And can I tell somebody, I got to give God thanks. I got to give God praise, because guess what? God came found me in Ledet. I don't know about y'all, but God came found me in a valley. How I knew that it was something still going on in the valley, because in the valley I still saw grasses grow. In the valley I still saw some plants. So that let me know water was still coming somewhere, because guess what? A water cannot grow unless water is there somewhere. Even though I couldn't see the water, I just knew it was there. Why? Because it had evidence. The evidence of the water was because I still saw the grass. The evidence of the water was because I still saw the plants. I don't know about y'all, but the evidence that God's still on my side, I still got breath. The evidence that God's still on my side, that I'm still standing 14 years later. Can I tell somebody he is a healer? Can I tell somebody he is a way maker? Can I tell somebody you can't even begin to imagine who God is? He is mystery. He tell you that my thoughts is above the heavens. That's why I tell everybody the heavens is the limit. So many people quote the saying that the sky is the limit, but I learned, baby, that the heavens is the limit. This is the season that, guess what? I shall speak life and not death. This is the season that I shall walk in my overflow, because guess what? You wasn't there when I had to stay up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You can imagine Mephibosheth felt like everybody left him, because they never even mentioned who his mother was. They never even mentioned if he had ancient uncles or cousins. He had been in a place so where he had to be raised by strangers. Can I tell you, this is the season that God said that everything that happened in your life had to happen, because mother couldn't always be there, father couldn't always be there. Can I stop and give my testimony? Because when I felt like I was in a place of Ledet, and when I went through my second brain surgery, I remember my mother. My mother came and she spent time with me. Now, mind you, it had been over 20 years to where we even had sat down and spent time together. But God had to allow me to go through this surgery, that my mom had to come and spend time with me. And we was in a place and we was talking, and she had started to tell me, she said, know what? She said, I would have probably stayed if it wasn't for your daddy and I had to press brakes. I say, no, baby, God had already ordained it. God already orchestrated it. He only needs you to be the incubator, and he only needed my father to be the seed donor, because guess what? God had bigger plans, but he needed me to come from your bloodline. You don't understand. I couldn't cry about it. I couldn't have a pity party about it, because guess what? God gave me revelation on it. And the revelation was that God had to do things. And I had to tell her, I said, Mama, if you would have stayed like you thought that you wanted to stay, you would have hindered where God was taking me. You would have stopped some kind of process. You would have hindered me from going to the place that God needed me to go through. Do you understand that I went through things in life and I didn't understand why I had to go through so many things that I had to went through, not knowing that God had a bigger stage for my place. I used to cry. I said, God, why me? And he said, why not you? I say, God, but I'm a good person. I don't deserve this. But who is us to tell God what we deserve and what we don't deserve when we really don't know the master plan on our life? But one thing I do know, I had to go through a test in order to become. In order for God to use me, I had to go through the fire. In order for God to use me, I had to be tested. In order for God to use me, I had to know that guess what I can take and what I couldn't take. Can I tell you, God is still stretching me to this day. I don't know about y'all, but did somebody drop you? I felt like everybody had left me. Nobody was there for me. But yet when God started to talk to me, he said, but I told you I never leave you and I never forsake you. And I guess that's how Mephibosheth said, well, God, if you say who you say you are, I need you to show up and show out. And sometimes I have to tell God, God, if you spoke it, I need to see it. You ever put God on a demand right then and there, and God came to your rescue to show you that guess what? I told you, long as you ask whatever you need in my son's name, that it shall be done. And you have to understand what God is doing. God is setting you up for the best days that you could ever imagine. God is setting us up for greater that is coming to us. You have to understand the reason why people had to leave your life, the reason why people had to come inside your life, because guess what? God had to let you know who you were. God had to let you know you could stand with or without them. You had to understand that guess what? Mephibosheth didn't talk about nobody else, only himself. But the thing about David that I love what David did, no matter how Mephibosheth saw himself, David saw something greater. Do you not know who God is? When God see us, he don't see who we are now. He's seeing us for what we're about to become. Can I tell you, you in this season that God is about to change your name? You know about Jacob, when Jacob went through all the things in life, but when he came in contact with the angel, when he had to send everybody away, sometime God will allow you to send everybody away. God will allow everybody to leave your life in order for you to find yourself. Can I tell you that in order for Jacob to come in contact with the angel and God himself, he had to send his wife and his children away. He had to send his maid servants away. He had to be in his place by himself. But the thing about it, they say he wrestled with the angel. Isn't that something that the wrestling match went on when everybody went away? Sometimes God know how to get stuff out you when you're by yourself. Isn't that something? There's something about the wrestle match when you're wrestling with God, because God don't never take his hands off you and you don't never take your hands off of God. I don't know about y'all, but it's something about when I'm wrestling with God that I say, God, I'm not letting you go till you bless me. When the last time that you wrestled with God and you told God, I'm not coming out your presence until you bless me? I need to see what you already said about my life, because I know what I'm going through now. It don't seem like it, but I know it's something greater is coming. I know that guess what? You have already established it. And the thing about it was that the angel had to put his hand on his hip so he could leave with a limp. Sometime you're wrestling with God will leave you in a stage that guess what? He'll leave markings on you. I don't know about y'all, but when I had to wrestle with God, I had to be cut through my head. Do you not know that I still have a mark from it to let you know that guess what? I had to wrestle with God. You have to know that God will allow certain situations to come in your life to leave a mark on your spirit, to leave a mark on your body, to let you know I have been in the presence of God. You cannot come out the presence of God without leaving some kind of marking on you. But guess what I could say? Greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. And I can say, if I wouldn't have never went through that experience, I wouldn't be able to lay hands and heal. I won't be able to speak to the dead and they got to come forward. I don't know about y'all today, but everything that you went through was for a purpose. Can I tell you, your misery is your ministry? If you came out of it fighting, you came out of it and you have your right mind and you still standing, can I tell somebody this was made for you? Can I tell somebody? I always tell people I was anointed for this. You don't understand where my all came from. It came from a crushing. It came from a hitting, a beating. You got to understand that you have to go through some things in order to come out of it, in order to stay standing. You got to know what God is doing in your life right now. If you want to know why you have to go through some hell, you got to know, baby, you got to push. Because can I tell you, you're in a season of delivery? Can I tell somebody that Mephibosheth was in a season of delivery? If I had to go back in the Bible day and see how his week was before it came up to that day, I'm pretty sure sure that suicide probably crossed his mind. I'm pretty sure anxiety had came across. I'm pretty sure that he was thinking about what his grandfather and his daddy did and what his mama was, and he probably was living with regret. But can I tell you, it's something that was toiling with him all week long, but yet he still had a prayer inside of him. I don't know about y'all, but I always keep with a word inside me. That's a keepsake. What you mean a keepsake, Pastor? I'm glad you asked. You always have to keep a word inside you when you don't feel like praying. You always have to keep a word inside you when it seems like all hell breaking loose. You always have to keep a word inside you to let you know that guess what? I'm going to make it out of this. I don't know about y'all, but many could quote the scripture. It says that in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because thy rod and thy staff comfort me. You got to understand what was in the valley of the shadow of death. That any time that the shepherd led the sheep but to get water, they had to go through this thing called the valley. You got to understand that it was mountains in the way that the sun had shined inside the valley, that they sometimes had shadows. And in those shadows places, they had wolves. And so you have to understand in the middle of the valley that God will still keep you covered, because guess what? God is leading you to the green pastures. You got to understand that in the shadows of the valley of death, that God is leading you to still waters. You got to understand in the valley of shadow of death that God is preparing your table before your enemies. You have to understand it's all right that they pull your name through the mud, because always remember Mephibosheth was recognized on lame, on what his handicap was. They didn't even say he was the grandson of Saul or he was the son of Jonathan. He was recognized by the lame in his body. And sometimes people will recognize you from what you used to be and where you used to go. But can I tell you now, God is about to flip the script on many, that when they see you now, they won't even see you the same way they used to see you. I never forgot where I was, because as David wrestled with the angel, the one thing that the angel said, he said, I need to know, what is your name? And Jonathan, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm getting so caught up. Jacob said that my name is Jacob. He said, today your name shall be Israel. He said, because you have wrestled with man and survived, and yet you have wrestled with God and survived. He said, so now your name has changed. Can I tell you, in your wrestling match, your name will change. But can I tell you, you shall be greater than you can ever be. Can I tell you, I'm sitting as a living witness that I'm here to give a testimony that guess what, when everybody left me for dead, I didn't know that God had already called the cold blue in the spirit, because guess what? God was there to resuscitate me. I'm here to speak to somebody in your life. God will be there to resuscitate you. No matter who dropped you, it was necessary. No matter who left you, it was necessary. No matter who scandalized your name, it was all necessary, because the Bible tells me that all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord. You have to know that this is your hour to push. You have to know this is your season, that the King is looking for you. You have to know that this is the hour that God have got your name in a wind. Can I tell you, your name is in the north, the south, the east, the west? Or can I speak over myself? My name is in the north, the south, the east, the west. That they ain't going to understand the story about this little girl from Liberia, Louisiana, that God is about to put on a set stage to declare his name and his rules and his regulations. This is the hour that God is calling us back to the place of him. Do you not know that God had already had a plan for Mephibosheth even from the time that he fell? He thought that it was down and out for him, but not knowing that God was coming like a tsunami to take over, to blow his mind, that God was about to sit him in a heavenly place, in a spiritual place. And I'm here to tell you now that God is here to sit us in spiritual places. I thank God for the good. I thank God for the bad. I thank God for the hard, and I thank God for the easy. I thank God for the sunshine, and I thank God for the rain, because the thing that you have to know about the rain, it don't last always. And so I'm here just to let you know that guess what? It's all working together for your good. And I thank y'all all for tuning in today with us, to let you know that guess what?